Joining me now is Javier Palomarez, President and CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Steve Cortes, National Hispanic Advisory Council for Donald Trump. Steve, I want to go to you first. What did you make of Trump's comments last night, and is this going to work for him? Is this going to be a turning point in his campaign?
Well, you know, Sandra, I think what he's doing is working, and certainly the polls show that. You're on the Fox News poll shows that. When we look at Reuters, he was at a 12-point disadvantage just a couple of weeks ago. He's now tied in the polls. So I think what he's doing is working. What I think he did yesterday is he acted incredibly presidential. He went to Mexico City. He met with a world leader, one who, by the way, had formerly castigated him, who had compared him to Hitler and Mussolini, yet he reached out to him and said, we can negotiate as allies and friends. We can find common ground. The U.S. and Mexico have a common future as neighbors, as allies, as trade partners. So, and then he went to Arizona and he spoke to Americans and said, listen, I will always have your back. It will always be America first. We love immigration, but immigration must be done by the rules. And it's the people who are most harmed by illegal immigration, by the way, are legal immigrants, are people who went through what is often a very cumbersome process. People like my father who did it right, who got visas, who got citizenship, who became naturalized, and it is completely, patently unfair to them in every way to say that people can then cheat the system and cut the line in front of them.
Let me just tell you, that speech last night, Dagan and I were chatting. I mean, it was late. We had to get up early. It was a compelling speech. It was, I mean, it was attention grabbing, and I mean, he really doubled down on his immigration plan and gave more specifics. Let's listen to some of that from last night before we get to Javier.
Zero tolerance for criminal aliens. Zero. Zero. You can call it whatever the hell you want. They're gone. Their days have run out in this country. The crime will stop. They're going to be gone. It will be over.
So, what did you make of it, Javier?
Well, I think it was a compelling speech that played well to his base, no doubt. The problem, the challenge that Donald has in front of him is he's got to grow that base. He's got to reach a higher percentage of the Hispanic vote.
Do you think he did that last night?
No, he did not.
Why? Where did he fail?
Well, I think at the end of the day, the story hasn't changed. He did get some more specifics into the speech. I certainly agree with that. But the reality of it is, listen, immigration reform is important. The immigration system is broken. Nobody's arguing about that. But you don't fix it by going down and having a chat with the president of Mexico, coming back and getting your base all fired up.
Isn't that better than not going down to talk to him?
That works for the base. That works for the base. But this system has been broken over decades. It's not going to get fixed in one conversation. That's the beginning and the end of it. So, building a wall is a great thing, but that doesn't solve the problem. 42% of illegal immigrants get here by flying into the United States. A wall is not going to change that. We need to get beyond the rhetoric and get down to what actually will fix the problem.
Do you like anything that Hillary Clinton is saying?
You know, Hillary's got her own issues to deal with in terms of immigration reform. Immigration in this nation is broken. Nobody is arguing that point. But you don't fix it by hyperbole. You don't fix it by shenanigans. You fix it like John Kasich and Jeb Bush and even Marco Rubio were trying to approach it in a more compassionate and strategic fashion. This is an important relationship that must exist with Mexico. $600 billion of bilateral trade, 6 million American jobs depend on this issue. You can't fix this issue. You can't fix this broken immigration system by hyperbole. It simply doesn't work that way.
But, I mean, Steve, we just had the father of a son who was killed by an illegal immigrant who said, listen, I have to have confidence that Donald Trump's plan will work. I have to, because he's the only one saying the right thing. He's the only one in his words, Steve.
No, and Senator, listen, it's important for our national security that we control our border. It's important for our economic security because American workers, particularly, by the way, legal Hispanics, African Americans, they should not have to compete in the labor market with illegals who almost always are willing to work for lower wages because of their status. And, you know, I want to speak as a campaign, and personally, I want to speak much more to legal Hispanic Americans, whether they're immigrants or the descendants of immigrants. And I think that they have been taken for granted by the Democratic Party. Most people of color have been taken for granted by the Democratic Party and are not doing very well, by the way, in this economic expansion, in this very slow expansion. People of color are going backwards, unfortunately, economically. They live in unsafe neighborhoods largely. They largely attend failing schools. I hope that Donald Trump, and I believe that Donald Trump is appealing very effectively to those people, saying the Democrats take you for granted. Please give us a chance. We have ideas and policies that can grow your communities in every way, in safety and prosperity. So that's where I really want to focus, and I believe Donald Trump will focus in these next 70 days left in this election.
And as far as the Donald Trump softening stance, which he used that word last week, a lot of people were expecting going into the speech last night to have him back down from some of his controversial stances on illegal immigrants and immigration. He did not. So what are you hearing this morning? What is the response of the Hispanic community?
Well, you know, we represent 4.1 million Hispanic-owned firms in this country that collectively contribute over $661 billion to the American economy. First and foremost, immigration reform is important to my constituency. It is not the top issue. It is not the only issue. There are so many other things that we want to hear from both candidates. We want to hear about how they're going to help American businesses move forward, small businesses gain access to capital and credit when we need it. We want to find out what both candidates think about international trade. 94% of the global market exists outside of the United States. These are the issues that we need to hear about.
So based on what Trump said last night, what would that do to the U.S. economy?
Absolutely nothing at this point. Building a wall is not going to fix our woes. We need to move the world's greatest economy needs to move forward, and fixing a wall, putting up a wall is not going to, first of all, it's not going to fix immigration. It's not going to fix illegal immigration. Again, 42% of all illegal immigrants in this country arrived on a plane.
But a lot of the liberals that you'll hear in response to the speech and Democrats, they say that if you start deporting illegal immigrants en masse, which, by the way, President Obama's done in record numbers.
Absolutely.
In record numbers.
More so than every president before him.
Right. Although it's slowed in recent years, if you start doing that, it's going to crater our economy. Do you buy that?
I don't know that it'll crater it. It's not going to help it. The fact of the matter is, this is a dragon that's been created so that Donald Trump could slay it. These are not the only issues we need to deal with. This economy needs help. And American business has spoken loudly. Donald Trump is not dealing with those issues.
Last word to you.
Javier, no, I would just say I think you and I would agree on far more than we disagree, and I think you would agree. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you would agree with me that to Hispanic Americans who are here legally, which is a massive community, whether they're immigrants or descendants, to Hispanic Americans, I think what really matters is we need school choice, we need tax reform, we need regulatory reform, we need to get growing again. We can't tolerate 1% growth in this country. Hispanic Americans, sadly, have 1/10 the household wealth of white Americans, and that's a tragedy. It's not because they don't work hard. They work incredibly hard. It's because of bad policy, and I think Donald Trump is offering some serious answers to that dilemma.
All right.